So the first thing you want to do is open Photoshop and click here. And I have multiple versions here. You just click on the version you want, and Photoshop's icon is a P and an S. And when it opens, we're going to say Create New. You can also come up here and say File, Create New. Photoshop gives you a bunch of defaults that you can select from, but I want to explain how to customize your own documents, because most of the time you will be doing that. You do have, let's show you, yeah, standard letter defaults, right? Legal, tabloid, other documentation. There's also some for the web. But let's talk about how to create your own. So the first thing you're going to do is give it a name. And I highly recommend that you give things folders, names that you will remember 3 years from now. Like test, I'm not going to know what that is 3 years from now. I'm probably going to delete it, and it might have been important. So that's a bad name. Usually when you're working on a project, you want to give it the name of the project. You want to give it some sort of identifier. You want to make sure that it's something that you are going to recognize and be able to easily find. Folders are really, really important to quickly finding documentation. Because if you lose something that you've worked on because you have a jump drive where you just save everything as test 1, test 2, test 3, and you have hundreds of documents, it's going to take you a while to find things. You're going to lose things. You're going to have to recreate things. So the best thing you can start off with is good file management. Create folders, give things names that you will remember in the future, and your future self will thank you for it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the size of the document, width and height. By default, it's pixels. And pixels in raster imaging are the base, bottom, foundational format that an image is made out of. They're made out of squares, and each square has a solid color in it. And the more squares you add, the more information you have, the higher your resolution. And you're going to see that word down here, resolution. Okay, so you may sometimes work with documents that are pixels. I actually did something for a campaign for the college 2 years ago, and they asked me to give it to them, because it's for web, in pixels. So sometimes you're going to get that. But since you're not familiar with working with pixels just yet, we're going to work in inches. A lot of the time you will work in inches, especially if you're printing things. You're going to work in inches. And we're familiar with inches. The empirical system is something that we've grown up with, we've worked with, we've used. If I tell you an 8.5 by 11 letter size piece of paper, you know what that is. Okay, so you get to type in any width you want. And I'm just going to go with the standard 8.5 by 11. And watch what happens when I hit enter here. Oh, it already did it. The minute that my width is larger than my height, it reorients the page for me. We have two choices, portrait and landscape. And portrait is when the short side's on the bottom, and landscape is when the long side's on the bottom. Okay? And in Photoshop, these are called artboards. They're also called artboards in Illustrator. You can refer to them as pages, canvases, images. They get referred to as a lot of things. I'm trying to use the word artboards more, so wherever you see artboards, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've now set up the page. This is what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a landscape 11 by 8.5 page. Just a standard piece of paper that you get out of the printer. The resolution matters. Okay, resolution is determined in pixels per inch. So how many pixels are in an inch? The more pixels you have, the higher the resolution. I recommend everyone always start off with 300 ppi for your document. Resolution's getting better on screen and on print, but our eyes can only see so much. And I've actually tried to look it up so I could give everybody a hard number. What is the highest resolution your eyes can see? And I've seen different numbers from scientists. And sometimes it's 300, that's the highest you can see, but I don't think that's right. Other times I've seen 600. However, a printer right now and a screen are not doing any higher than this. So for now, 300 is still safe. As resolution increases, you can always add more. So in this case, the reason I'm saying start off with 300 is because this is print quality. If you want to print your work, you will be able to do it in this size. The problem is if you do it lower, later on you want higher resolution and you try to make it higher resolution, the computer is going to randomly assign, it's intelligent, but still nonetheless, it will assign the additional pixels, right? So if you go from 72 to 300, you take a document that was created at 72 and you make it 300, the computer is going to fill in the additional pixels, and it may choose incorrectly. Documents where you do that generally don't look so great. So it's better to start off high, and you can always reduce it later if you need to put it online. The default for online is 72 ppi. I never work with less than 150. I think it makes a difference. Again, these are things that people debate and argue with all the time. And I think it just depends on the quality of your monitor, the quality of your eyesight, just a whole lot of variables. But so to begin with, we'll start there. Now the color mode, and that controls which color scheme we use. Are we using additive light or are we adding subtractive? The default is RGB. If you want to work with that, you can. We use RGB for screen. For print, you do want to use CMYK. Cyan, yellow, magenta, and black is what those letters stand for. Because some of the features in Photoshop don't work with these higher bit resolutions, just stick with 8-bit for now. It's not allowing me to choose CMYK on this computer, and I'm not sure why, unless it's associated with that. Yeah, it's not. That's really weird. Okay, so we're just gonna work in RGB. It's fine. And then the background. This is what color's my page, and you can make all sorts of choices, and you can select that color. You have some advanced options here. You can do color management, and that's more advanced, so we're not going to cover that in this course. Okay, and then create, and that creates my document, and you see my page comes up here on screen, and it takes me into Photoshop. And I have this great little toolbar over here on the side. I'm going to pull this off, and then I have all these palettes over here. The only one I ever keep open is my layers, because the layers are so important in Photoshop. You have to work with them. Can't not work with layers. Well, I guess you can, but you have a very flat document. And then I pretty much close everything else. Let's pull this off if I can, because it gives me, voila, more space. Now, I'm going to tell you, you have to figure out what works best for you and work that way. Okay, but I'm going to stop this video here, and we'll work on the interface in the next video.